You're on the clock first, my friend. Your first survivor lean of the week.
Yeah, we had talked early in the year about, when to fade the chalk, the majority of people, and maybe when to ride with it. And so I predicate my first pick with that sort of methodology. And the obvious one is the Houston Texans, okay? A team that's 0-3, a team that is going to face a divisional opponent in the Tennessee Titans. Have the Titans improved a bit? Yeah, but if you're going to have any semblance of a remainder of a season, this is a game that Houston must win. So I don't think that's going to be earth-shattering to a lot of people. And then just looking out, Dave, where we always do this exercise, if you don't use them this week, when can you potentially use them again? The next time, in all seriousness, is probably, ironically, on the road in Week 11 against these same Tennessee Titans. So this kind of a no-brainer as far as an option. And a lot of that also, as you said, if you're having to save, like a Buffalo, or you're having to save a Kansas City, or another one of the teams in that Thanksgiving, Black Friday, or Christmas window, then yes, you're looking for an opportunity. And will they be highly popular? Absolutely, they will.
Great minds think alike. Houston Texans right there with me as well, Jensen. That's exactly where I began the conversation for this week as well. And the point, too, is I think that if you watch our network, if you're watching your FanDuel Sports Network, if you're listening Sirius XM Channel 158, I would hope that what you're picking up now is we really are trying to give you bigger picture options to try to navigate depending on how big your pool is. Right. So, let's say Grandissimo, it's going to have less options and less people in it. Maybe you don't have to be as risky as you would in a pool that's going to have 17,000 people in it, like Circuit Survivor is going to have. So know how many people are in, how many are you competing against, and then you can kind of pick and choose where to go. But if the Texans are going to be who I think they are, and I still think they have a playoff, not only a playoff level defense, a championship level defense. That's how good I think that defense is. And oh, by the way, they said goodbye to C.J. Gardner-Webb yesterday. They're like, C.J. Gardner, get out of here. We don't need you anymore. And that's how good their defense is, that they can move on from a guy like that, and they feel like we can still get more out of this defense. I think this is going to be a really angry football team this week, and I like the Texans to be able to beat, I think right now, no disrespect to Brian Callahan, one of the worst coach teams I've seen out there. And I like the Callahan family, and I'm rooting for their success. But if you watch them play, they have not looked well coached, at least in weeks 2 and 3. So I'm right there with you with the Texans as our first survivor lean. Number 2 option on the board would be
the New England Patriots. And again, a lot predicated on, when will you use them again? Home against the Carolina Panthers, who just look like gangbusters in a 30-0 shutout over the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I've already played the Patriots -5.5. I do think that that's gone up in a couple of places to 6. But also here again, the exercise, Dave, of wanting to pivot off of some of the chalkier selections. That's a big reason why I wanted to have at least some Patriots selections in my portfolio. Make no mistake about it. They've got, an opportunity in a couple of weeks here against the Saints. It's on the road, so I'd rather take, the home game against Carolina. Is it a look-ahead spot to Buffalo? I'm not going to read into that just yet. I think it's a deflating loss that they had against the Steelers at home, and they're going to want to make amends for that. And if Carolina takes their show on the road and they upset Drake May and company, then I'll tip my cap. But as far as kind of getting a little bit different from the field, I would say the Patriots, another good lean for people to consider.
You mentioned that look-ahead spot potentially for the Patriots. It's a primetime game next week against the Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park. And if you want to back the Buffalo Bills this week, again, depending on your rules, and you don't need to save them for any reason. Remember, there's no holiday game for them. There's no Thanksgiving, Christmas game for the Buffalo Bills this year, which is odd, ironically, looking at that scheduling quirk and say, boy, the Bills are not in any of those spots. No, they're not. And so when you see a 16.5-point favorite in the National Football League, you're probably not losing that game. I do not see a world, barring the unthinkable of a Josh Allen injury early in this game, where the Buffalo Bills are going to be in any jeopardy at all of losing at home in Orchard Park to the lowly Saints. So Seattle was one of my picks last week in Survivor, and this is not just an all-out fade on the Saints, but if you want to use that strategy, I'm not going to be mad at you. Until they prove to me they can win a football game. They were close in weeks 1 and 2. They were not close last week against Seattle. I don't think they're going to be close this week with that 16.5-point spread. We mentioned it last week with Miami coming in, that maybe that would be a difficult spot for the Bills, and it was. That game was tied up at 21 late in that game. I don't think you're going to have any Survivor sweats here for the Buffalo Bills this week. So if you want to burn them and just have a nice, easy cakewalk to get out of September, not going to be mad at you. I can understand it. One more lean, Jensen, that you have for your Circus Survivor.
Okay, so we saw a lot of people jump on the Broncos in week 1, hosting Cam Ward, his first NFL start, the Tennessee Titans. A little bit different scenario with the Chargers going on the road to the Meadowlands. But if you do want to get a little more zig when people are zagging, the LA Chargers would be a recommendation for me. Now, plenty of future spots here for the Chargers to be used. You could essentially look at them in Miami in week 6. Would you want to play them at home against what is now the undefeated Colts in week 7? Would you even consider saving the Chargers to week 9 to go against the Tennessee Titans? To me, I think there's going to be other opportunities that you would want to exploit there. And I also know what has happened in the past, Dave. The Chargers have struggled in the second half of season. So I want to strike while the iron is hot. I parlay that with the first ever NFL start from a rookie quarterback. It has mostly gone the way of that team that is going against said rookie quarterback. So Chargers, yes, you would be burning an undefeated and technically top team here. But again, we have yet to have a true chaos week, right? And I'm not saying that, body clock wise, this isn't something to consider as well, because it is. But I'll take the way that Jim Harbaugh has that group playing, where that defense is. I know Khalil Mack is not going to be there, but I think for where we are and what you like, if you have to get different, Chargers not a bad option to use.
I'll tell you this, too, for Charger backers out there. You get a little bit nervous whenever you have to pick the Chargers, period, right? Because charging and the things in the past. But if you take them on the road, to me, that's not a whole lot different than taking them at home, because they don't have a true home field advantage out there in SoFi. So I like where your head's at there, that if you want to take them cross-country against New York, why would you do that? Well, because when they play at home, pretty much, you saw it last week, there's more Denver fans there, arguably, than there are Charger fans. So that home field advantage really doesn't play for Chargers handicaps as well. You can look at them on the road, and maybe that's a good spot to do it. Speaking of the Broncos, I don't know who they are yet. And Bo Nix in year number 2, not looking as good as he did in year number 1. But I would look to them this week against the Bengals. Now, I like this Bengals team. You know I have tickets on them. But let's be honest. Last week in Minnesota, it didn't look pretty. Game number 1 without Joey B. So you can't turn it over pretty much against anybody, but against a Brian Flores defense, and you can't do it against a Sean Payton defense, right? You just can't. So if they don't play a clean football game in Mile High, I don't know how Cincinnati goes in there and gets a win. So I would look at the Broncos, but I would be nervy about that pick because Bo Nix has not been playing at a truly consistent winning level to begin this year. He's going to have to be better. But if you're making me say which team's going to make a mistake, I would say the Bengals, more often than not, would make more mistakes than the Broncos. A lean to the Broncos here for a third surviving circa potential pick.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.